Thank you for taking the time to tune in with us. Here on Unclamped, we recognize that every patient and caregiver carries a story, each one shaped by unique experiences, challenges, and triumphs. Before we dive in, we want to take a few minutes to introduce ourselves so you can get to know the voices behind the mic, the journeys that brought us together here, and the passion that fuels this space. Because this isn't just a podcast, it really is about community, and every story matters. Welcome back to Unclamped. I'm Jamie, here with Gabby and Crystal. Most of us in this space already know the technology, the feeding pumps, infusion systems, the tools that make nutrition support possible every day on the go. But what doesn't often get talked about is the community that's behind it, and the people who really bridge that gap between technology and lived experience. Today's guest, Ryan, is connected to a company many of you are familiar with, MOOG Medical. You probably know their work through Enteral feeding pumps and infusion pumps, but that's really just one part of his story. What stands out more is how deeply rooted he has made himself in this community and how much it means to him. While he's not on nutrition support himself, his own healthcare journey has helped shape his perspective and ultimately inspired him to show up as a support for others navigating it. That connection, both personal and professional, has made the nutrition support community something that's truly near and dear to his heart. So today's conversation is less about the devices and more about purpose, empathy, and finding your own voice through your own experience. Okay, so now that I've set the stage, let's sit down with Ryan at the intersection of purpose, profession, and community. So thank you, Ryan, for joining us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Both as a patient and someone who's worked in the industry, I know how important it is to understand the people behind all the devices that actually care, not just the therapy itself. So thanks, Ryan, for actually showing up and caring.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So with that, welcome. We're really glad you're here with us. Let's start simple. Can you introduce yourself, your role, and what originally brought you into this space?
Yeah, 100%. So like they said, I'm Ryan O'Reilly. I work for MOOG Medical. So we're the company that makes the Curlin 6000, the 8000, and then the Infinity feeding pumps. Obviously, we make the sets and the accessories as well. And I'm the product marketing manager for the Curlin brand. So I'm responsible for any sort of marketing that people may have seen surrounding the 6 or the 8000, some of the webinars that we do, stuff like that. I've been with MOOG for a little over 3 years, and I absolutely love it. MOOG is an incredible place to work. And my role has actually what brought me into the space. So I've been in med device for most of my career, so a little over 10 years. But MOOG was my first step into nutrition support and home infusion in general. And how I kind of got into the space, obviously, is we exhibit at Oli. So we have a booth every year. We host the Wear Your Pump fashion show. You've probably seen me at some of those events, hosting with Kara Larimer and our crazy outfits. And yeah, sing a song or two at karaoke.
So yes, you're very connected in the community, and we love that. From the home infusion to everything beyond, and then also, of course, with your partner, Kara. But can you share a little bit about your personal healthcare journey and how it shaped who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an atypical genetic disorder that wasn't diagnosed until I was 30. So I'm lucky that it doesn't outwardly affect my life in a pronounced way. So it's kind of an invisible illness. But when we discovered it, it was because it was affecting my ability to have children. So my wife and I struggled to conceive for what felt like forever, as you can imagine. And throughout the process, right, it got really frustrating, just navigating the system, trying to get answers. With some of these genetic illnesses, oftentimes it's not so much a rule out as it is a rule in. So you have to go through the process, which can be frustrating and at times feel like it's just a cycle that never wants to end. And so finally, as I was working through it, I got to the point where I said, hey, you're a sales rep. You deal with this sort of thing all the time, with rejection and objections all the time. why don't you handle this the same way you would handle it at work? And so long story short, I started using my professional skills to build relationships with my care team, to ask more informed questions, to understand, pain points and why they do things the way that we do things. And it would led to me getting referred to a specialist, which finally led to some answers, right? All worth it, though. My wife and I are super proud parents of a toddler, which is at times hectic and also awesome. As anyone with kids will tell you, they're amazing, and it's the best thing to ever happen to us. But yeah, so all that process was in the end 100% worth it.
I can see that, and I can see how your personal journey can connect you with the people who use the products, because you truly understand from a different angle, because you don't use nutrition support, but truly understand the hurdles that we have to jump through, both on a personal level and a professional level. So I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love your self-advocacy journey. I just think that that's so important. I feel like patienthood is truly just an evolution on its own, right? I mean, I don't feel like we're trained ever or really like, okay, this is what it is. You kind of just are fumbling until in the dark until you can turn the lights on. So I love that you used your skills. You kind of went to your tool belt and was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. So that's awesome and that's amazing. And I think that that's so valuable for our patient audience to hear, is that anyone, nutrition support or not, goes through, their own personal journey of finding their voice and figuring out how to make it work. So one of the things, and I know you've already touched on it a little bit already, is the Oli Foundation, and your community involvement and efforts, which is such an important anchor in our nutrition support community. It's one of the reasons why we were just so thankful to have you on today. You've really created yourself as a pillar of support in that space. So can you talk a little bit about how that's really impacted you and allowed you to connect with patients and families?
Yeah, 100%. So like I said, I've been in the medical device space for my entire career, mostly. So like I said, a little over 10 years. And one of the things when you work in this space is you're always hearing about, the patients and the impact that our products have, and how they affect people's lives. And anecdotally, you hear stories. But what's really been awesome about that, and what makes Oli, to me, super special, and for the entire MOOG team, is it's a place where we actually get to interact with them face to face. We get to hear what's going on. We get to understand their story. We get to learn about their history, how they use the pump. And we hear the impact, right, that our products have, which is important, right? I think anyone who works in this industry will tell you that it's really special to be able to put things in the perspective of how our products affect everyone's life. We get to see people coming out to this event every single year, living their best lives, supporting each other through their journeys, which is incredible. And it's just something that we really feel honored to be a part of, because not everyone gets this opportunity to celebrate the patients and celebrate the impact that our products have. So we really love being able to go to Oli every year.
Love that.
I love that. I need to bring it up because you mentioned it a little bit, and the Oli fashion show. It's such a powerful moment where people, show up fully as themselves, with their pumps, their lines, and everything. And you've been part of that energy. What does the fashion show and that experience mean to you?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to put into words. I thought about this a lot, actually, because it's really kind of unlike anything I've seen in my previous career or kind of in my life. Everyone deserves to be seen, and they deserve to be supported, and they deserve to feel supported. And I think that this event it really showcases that. It showcases people's ability to show how they live their life with what they have to go through, and it provides a place for people to celebrate them, to honor them, to support them. And it's just really a special event, to be honest. It's just something that is so unique to us, and it's something that I really can't put into words, because it's an honor, right, to truly be a part of it. I know we get to be up there, we get to we get to host and hold the microphones and all this sort of stuff. But we don't really do it for us. We do it for the patients, because it's just such a special event and such a special time for the people that attend.
Well, I personally, as I've told you in person, but I personally, that's what I look forward to, is to seeing what you're specifically wearing, to both the opening events and to the fashion show and at NHIA, the Jeopardy. So your outfit
Yeah.
literally make my day.
I appreciate that.
Sometimes my week, sometimes my month. I would love to know how you come up with your the ideas behind it, besides just the theme of the thing. So you literally give me hope with that and make me smile. So
Well, I have to tell you, it's actually not me. We as a team at MOOG, we come up with them together, and it's actually mostly Corey Orem and Kara Larimer. So Corey is the product marketing manager over the Infinity. He's my counterpart here at MOOG on the marketing team. And then Kara is, our director of our dietitian and director of nutrition here at MOOG. And she and Corey they run with it every year. I feel grateful that I get to work with people like them, because they do care. I get to be a part of the spotlight and all of that. I understand that, but they're really the ones that kind of come up with the ideas, and I'm kind of just along for the ride, to be honest.
well, Kara is.
I did grow the mustache for Captain Hook, though, so I will say that I did do that.
I was going to ask you about the mustache, because I quite enjoyed that. And you can definitely rock a mustache, so that was fun. But yeah, I love Kara's outfits. They always just give me hope, as to,
Yeah.
and it's just fun, and to truly be, like you said, be who you really are, and give time for just being truly present and enjoying the moment.
Yeah, we try to make a splash, because it means a lot. We've heard obviously, from you, Crystal, and from other people that I think last year we won an award for like best dressed, and shout out to us for that. But we try to like make it special, because it is special, right? We're honored to be there. We're grateful that we get the opportunity to be there, and so we want to kind of show up and show out in that way, because it means a lot, and it means a lot to us.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I feel like you really have established yourself and your peers as that bridge. I know Crystal and I were fortunate enough to attend NHIA this year, and she alluded to the Family Feud and your Steve Harvey outfit. And I just love that, because I've always kind of seen you community facing, which you do an amazing job, of course. But for you to I saw nuances and skills that you were giving your peers too, in a fun way, of how to relate better to the community that you're serving and to your patient population. And I really admired that. I thought that was something that, often isn't seen. It's behind the scenes. Our patients and our community don't see all of the work and the effort and the time that, people like you take into consideration to really make this more than just a device or a supply management, job. It's really all encompassing. So I really love that. Can you talk more about, being in the industry and how you try to work as a liaison in that role?
Yeah, so one of the things I love doing is highlighting how people use MOOG's products to live their life every day. It's not something that goes unnoticed, but because of the way that our products work and how the products interact with people's lives, and they're just part of their everyday life, it's one of those things where it's when you start to look for it, you see it more. And so I always encourage people to look out for people as they go out and about, right? At the grocery store or at the mall. It's one of those things where, here internally at MOOG, when we host meetings, I always tell people, hey, look out for people with tubing. You'll notice it more often than you'd think. And it just goes to show, it serves two purposes. One, it highlights the community, and it highlights the resilience that this community has, and it highlights the tenacity of every one of our patients that really just goes out and about, lives their best life, and kind of gets after it. But it also serves as an opportunity for us to showcase how our products affect people, right? They're able to go to the mall, they're able to go to the store, they're able to go out with their friends, and do things that people do while getting nutrition support. So one of my favorite things to do is when I go out and about, like especially we have a local farmers market here where I live, and I always see kids with Infinity backpacks on, and I love pointing it out to my parents when they're with us, or to my wife. I went and did a career day at my daughter's school and talked about how, she's 3, and I was telling us, hey, some friends have tubing, and this is what the tubing does and why it's important, and you highlight these things for people to show that, hey, this community exists, this community is out there, and they're crushing it, and so it's an opportunity to celebrate them.
What I find so intriguing about that is, from a patient first off, that you actually take the time to point that out and to teach it. I find that very inspirational and hopeful and a lot. So I'm going to tie a couple of questions, both in industry and then also the community. You touched a lot on how what the community has taught you. But if you could touch a little bit on how that's changed your approach over the years, because you've been in the industry, device industry, for 10 years. So over the years, how have you changed your approach on that? I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about this industry is they do care a lot about the patient. So we think about it a lot. We talk about it a lot internally. We advocate internally. But so I started my career in a hospital, and so I really got to interact with people that were inpatient. And so it's one of those things where that initial experience really kind of shifted my perspective of, hey, this is not just a product that we sell. This is not just a product that we manufacture. This is a lifeline for some people. The Curlin, for example, does more than just TPN. It does inotropic drugs. It does life-sustaining therapies. And so we want to make sure that we treat it as such, right? And so having that patient perspective and thinking about, hey, how is this going to be used at the end of the day? Who is using it? What are they doing with it? And then the more and more I interact, the more and more I can validate some of those thoughts and validate those experiences. And then, talking with people and talking with patients allows me an opportunity to ask more of those questions, to dive deeper into their everyday lives, and just kind of go from there. So, over the years, to kind of answer that question in a short way is it's really just opened my eyes more and more to what our products do and how they can affect people and how we can be mindful as we develop them.
So thanks for that, Ryan. So for people listening, we're all very familiar with the day-to-day, the ambulatory infusion pumps, the feeding pumps. But oftentimes, it can be discouraging in the sense that there's not many choices out there, right? There's only a handful of types of pumps and ways that you can infuse your therapies. It's almost like you get what you get and you don't get upset. So given that, I also think it's really exciting to note that there is a lot of evolution happening in this space. So I want to know how MOOG really takes community feedback to shape, improvements and future directions.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's a great question, Jamie. So a prime example of how we do this is the new Curlin pump, so the 8000. The 8000 is the next generation of the 6, which we released back at NHIA about a year ago. And when we developed the 8000, we actually sought out the community of 6,000 users. Obviously, we chatted with providers, clinicians, pharmacists, and we used a lot of that community feedback to validate the decisions that we were making around the new pump. And so we really value the feedback. And now that the pump is launched, we actually still are collecting information as we get it. We get it from places like Oli, from other trade shows that we attend, obviously online. And then any opportunity that we can get, we use to help further the development of our products. And we think that community feedback is super important because at the end of the day, these are the people that use it on a day-to-day basis. and it impacts their lives. And so we want to make sure that we capture that.
As a patient, I'm always thrilled to hear that people in industry, if I use the products, if I don't use the products, actually listen to what I want and what I need and what works in my day-to-day life. So thank you for listening to the patients and the caregivers and the everyone out there to continue the developments. One thing I would also like to hear about is, so the people, you talk so much about how much the people care, but can you also describe, can you go give us a little bit, pull that scene back a little bit more and describe how the people behind the pumps, like what their true passion is and how us as patients and caregivers can understand the people behind the pumps, we'll say.
Sure. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, we really care. A lot of the Curlin team, a lot of the MOOG team, they are clinicians. We have nurses on staff. Obviously, Kara is a dietitian. A lot of us have been in this industry for a very long time. And we're proud of that, right? This is an industry that at a whole, not just home infusion, but in medical device in general, that it gives people a chance to feel like they're giving back. It's different from other industries in that respect, and that there's a patient at the end of a lot of the products that we make. And so I think that a lot of people's motivations stem from that they care, they understand the impact that they're having, they feel good about that impact. And the fact that they're making a difference in someone's life affects them in a pretty profound way. Speaking for me personally, right, I think that the ability or the opportunity to work in this industry, to work with products that impact patients the way that the Curlin does, it's super motivating, and it's something that I'm just incredibly thankful that I get to do. And that's something that I think I want people to understand, is that we do care. We love what we do. We appreciate the opportunity to do it, and we're grateful for that.
Thank you, because as somebody who was in industry, knowing that my signature was on the pages of lots of products that go into people and change people's lives, truly knowing how much that impacts their life impacted me greatly, and actually it changed the way I look at things because of it. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's when you get on this side of the fence, I guess, it really opens your eyes to what's, how things work. And so, yeah, it's a really cool opportunity to be able to support a community like we have.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love how invested it is from top to bottom. It seems like that you just really care and you're invested in the community, both personally and professionally. So kind of bringing it back full circle again, because I know, you have your own patient journey. Mm-hmm. So if someone was listening right now, right, and they're new in their nutrition support journey, just newly diagnosed, what are a few things you wish someone had told you about navigating healthcare and advocating for yourself?
Yeah, this is actually an incredible question. I think the biggest thing is not get discouraged. It's one of those things where, it can be really easy to feel like you're stuck in one place. Navigating healthcare is a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's a reason why they call them journeys, because they're not short.
Mm-hmm. I hear that. Right.
And so it's one of those things where, be patient with yourself, feel your feelings, but also try to make sure that you're having a two-way conversation. It's really easy to get frustrated. Like I said, I know it firsthand, but this is a two-way conversation with providers, with your care team. You really want to make sure that you're having those open dialogues, and trying to see things from the other side as well. I really like that quote that is attributed to Walt Whitman it was made popular by Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental, right? There's always a reason where, you may think things are not going the way you want them, but if you can ask the right questions, or you can start to better understand why your care team is making the decisions that they're making, it may better help inform you of what's going on. But also, don't be afraid to push back. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I never want to say, don't get into an argument, because nobody ever truly wins an argument. There's always just two losers. So, but ask the questions, right? Get comfortable stepping out and saying, hey, I want to know more, or why are we doing things this way? And then the last thing is, I would encourage everyone to go read this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's by Dale Carnegie. It's basically informed how I interact with people. And so I'd recommend everyone go read it. And then I'd recommend it to read it again.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. We truly appreciate it. And I'll definitely read that book.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. We've gone deep, but yeah, I want to bring up something that we've heard a little bit about your past and switch gears for a minute. We heard you were a heavy metal singer.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Is that true?
It is true. Yeah, that is true. I was in a metal band for quite a while. Still from time to time we'll play with friends here locally. Nothing too serious, but yeah, for a long time I was in a metal band.
Okay, so I just have to ask, how does someone go from heavy metal to healthcare? Like how does it show up for you still every day?
Yeah, it's, I think everyone's journey is a little bit different. It's kind of like sports, or, sometimes things just don't work out the way that you want them to, or, you have to pivot. For me, I spent a number of years in bands as a vocalist for bands. I joined a band in upstate New York for a while that got pretty big regionally. And then spent a long time actually behind the scenes doing like tour management, guitar tech work, stuff like that. And to be honest, I just decided one day that I didn't want to do it anymore. I traveled a lot. I was gone on the road. And it was just one of those things where I just said, hey, this isn't what I want to do. And so I pivoted. I got a job working at a hospital, which led me to a job in business development, and then led me here. So there's really not a ton to tell. It's, the stories are probably overly long and just as boring. But yeah, it was a fun ride. I did it for about 5 years and all through college, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Not much to tell besides that.
That is great, and I can see, but they both have passion, and so that's what I love, because you bring so much passion and drive to what you do, and
yeah,
I think that really has the reason you are so connected to our community is because of that passion and drive. So with that, how has it changed your perspective on your work and on your life more broadly?
I think one of the things this community has taught me is resilience. So it's really easy to get frustrated. It's really easy to when things get tough, to get discouraged. And being connected to this community, to me, has kind of given me that primer of saying, hey, you can get through this, right? And I think we all can get through this, right? One day at a time. And I don't know if I picked it up at Oli, but I might have. But there's this saying that I like that says, when there's little you can do what little you can. And that's kind of what this community has taught me, is that like there's always something and you can always push through. So don't get discouraged. And I really just kind of carry that with me, especially when I'm working on some of our products, because, we support this community. And so if y'all can do it, so can I.
I love that. It's very similar to my sayings. Depending on my energy of that day, I might not be able to do a lot, but what I do with all my love and heart. So.
Yep, exactly.
Love it.
And with that, does that help keep you grounded, or is there anything else that keeps you grounded in your day to day?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, what keeps me grounded,
Besides your toddler.
yeah, my toddler and my wife, my wife was there when I was doing music, and you're kind of up on stage, and she's always kind of been there to help keep me from floating off too much into the ether, right? But yeah, the opportunity to support a community like this, the opportunity to work in an industry like this, is a blessing. It's one of those things where I feel lucky every single day I wake up to go to work, because I know that what I'm doing is impacting someone's life in a positive way. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I don't want to let the people that we support down, right? I know that probably sounds a little bit cheesy, but at the end of the day, like, what we do is so important and is such an honor for me to be able to do that. And I feel super lucky that I get to. So I would, yeah, that's kind of it. It's the broader community, what we get to do every single day. It's just part of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to go back for a quick moment on something that you said, because it really resonates with me.
Sure.
As someone, so I'm a patient family,
Mm-hmm.
2 kids on TPN. I also work in the industry, and I work for a healthcare system. And I think that something that resonates and that really is true, and that we all should kind of use as a moral compass, is that be curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say it all the time. I say it to my kids. I say it, through our patient experience in the hospital and in the industry. Just always be curious, always ask the why, because it'll surprise you 9 times out of 10, and it helps you get closer to really understanding and being able to support. So I really just, I love that, and I think it's great that you kind of live by that code as well. But I think what really stands out is that when you take your own personal experiences, whatever they are, and turn them into connection, empathy, and action, it changes everything.
Yeah.
It's not just the work, but it's also, the impact behind it. So I really thank you for everything you've done, for sharing your story, your perspective, and how you continue to show up for the community. We're definitely looking forward to seeing you at Oli.
Happy to hear it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great. It's really, I know people look forward to it. You've become a household staple. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I tell people all the time that you can't ever go wrong just being authentic, and you can't ever go wrong being kind. I try my absolute best to be as kind to everyone as I can, and I know that might sound a little virtue signaling, I guess, but at the end of the day, like, we people deserve kindness, and people need kindness. And I think that we need more kindness in the world. And so that's just kind of the mentality that I take to it. And I think that this community has been incredibly receptive, and I'm grateful to have found a place where, I can, like you said, we can show up, and we can be who we are, and we can be authentic, and we can be ourselves, and really highlight what makes each one of us special, and what makes each one of us unique.
One quick follow-up, because you were talking about advocacy, and I know how passionate we all are about advocacy, and with the hospitals, and with what Jamie was just saying is and nobody wants an argument. I fully agree with Dawn. But when you're having those hard conversations, and I'm asking you, Ryan, when you had those hard conversations, what was the smallest things that you did to keep yourself in the moment, and not necessarily, because they are emotional, but which is good, but we know going emotional doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't always work. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, totally. So one of the things that I try to live for me is, when I interact with people, I like to remind myself, especially when conversations get tough, or when somebody maybe says something that you don't like, or you get upset. Nobody does. The phrase is, nobody does harm intentionally, most people are genuinely good people, and they don't mean to. And so I look at it through that. And so what that to me does is it reframes a conversation of, look, they mean well. So what is the well that they mean? And so then you start to look for, okay, why are they doing it this way? Or why are people saying these sorts of things? And it reframes the conversation from it being, like quote unquote, an argument to a two-way dialogue. So you start to look at you can ask more questions. It allows you to take a step back and understand, their perspective, try to understand their worldview, or like I said, ask more questions, and instead of shutting it off, right? Because that's the hard part. Like I said earlier, nobody truly wins an argument. There's no winner. It's usually just two losers. And so by reframing these sorts of things, you can start to look at things through the lens of who you're working with, and realize that, hey, they're probably on your side, and this is an opportunity to kind of build a bridge or to mend a fence or something like that, and create a deeper relationship. Because if you can find an opportunity for you to work together, whether it's with your care provider, or whether it's a friend or a spouse or a partner or a coworker, the trust grows, the bond grows, and then these things happen less and less.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Collaboration is the key, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone always wants to work together, and everyone is always looking for a good outcome. So I think that what we can take away from this episode is to be authentic, to be kind, and to be curious. And I feel like if we take that away, you're a prime example of all those things, and how to show up every day. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been awesome to be a part of this. I was really grateful that y'all asked me to come out and do this. And, I'm really happy to, like I said, support the community. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And to everyone, thank you for listening. We hope this reminds you that your voice matters, your experience matters, and there are people out there listening, learning, and growing alongside of you. We'll see you next time. Be sure to tune in wherever you get your podcasts. Take care. Good night. To everyone listening, thank you for being part of the conversation. Your voice and experiences matter, and we're grateful to learn alongside this incredible home infusion community. Before we go, we want to say a quick thank you to MOOG Medical for helping ensure the factual accuracy of this episode. The content and conversations shared were independently guided by the hosts of Unclamped with the support of our sponsor, ReviewRx. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Unclamped.